Mowgli shivered as the snow underfoot froze his bare toes. He had never known cold like this before. The jungle was supposed to be warm, filled with the damp heat of the trees and the comforting hum of insects. But now the world had turned white, and the air bit at his skin with sharp, icy teeth. "I'm so cold," he whimpered, hugging himself and rubbing his arms for warmth. His breath came out in little puffs of mist. From the treetops above, a rustling sound stirred the branches, and a familiar, chattering voice echoed through the frosty air. Well, what do we have here?" King Louis, the boisterous orangutan, swooped down with his long arms, his orange fur standing out against the stark white of the snow-covered jungle. He landed gracefully beside Mowgli and scooped him up in a single fluid motion, cradling him like a baby monkey. "Now you don't have to walk on the snow," Louis beamed, his voice filled with pride at his cleverness. Mowgli clung to him at first, grateful to be off the icy ground, but as they swung up into the trees, a new problem arose. The cold air hit him even harder at this height. The wind howled through the branches, cutting through his skin like 1,000 tiny needles. "Bert, but it's even colder up here," he shivered, his teeth chattering. Louis blinked, looking confused. "Aw, kid, I thought I was doing you a favor." "It's nice of you, King Louis," Mowgli said, "but I think I'd rather be down there than up here in this wind." Louis sighed and carefully lowered Mowgli back onto the snow-covered ground. "Well, ain't that a fine how do you do? Sorry, kid. Guess trees ain't the best winter hideout after all." As Mowgli hugged himself and hopped from foot to foot, another voice slithered through the air, smooth and soothing. "Perhaps I can be of assistance," came the familiar hiss of Kaa, the great python. He uncoiled himself from a nearby branch and slithered down toward Mowgli, his golden eyes gleaming. "I'm listening, Kaa," Mowgli said hopefully. Kaa swayed his head from side to side, considering. "You see, Baloo the bear sleeps through the winter in a cave. It is warm, it is dry, and it is safe from the snow. You can shelter with him." Mowgli's eyes lit up. A cave? That sounded much better than freezing out here in the open. "That's a great idea," he said. "Follow me," Kaa instructed, slithering ahead through the snow. Mowgli followed eagerly, his frozen feet barely feeling the ground beneath them. After a short trek, they arrived at Baloo's cave. It was nestled beneath a rocky overhang, the entrance gaping like the mouth of a giant beast. Inside, the floor was dry, and the walls looked sturdy. Kaa gave a polite nod toward the big, slumbering bear. "Be my guest," he hissed softly. Mowgli stepped inside and sighed with relief. The cave was much better than being outside in the biting wind. He sat down, curling his legs close to his chest. But as he sat there, he noticed something. The cold wasn't gone. It was still chilly inside the cave, and the wind whistled through the entrance like an invisible ghost. He wrapped his arms around himself and moaned, "I'm still cold." Baloo, who had been enjoying his deep winter nap, cracked one sleepy eye open. "How can I sleep when you keep grumbling?" He grunted, his voice thick with drowsiness. "I'm sorry, Blue," Mowgli said, his voice small. "But it's still freezing in here." Baloo groaned and lumbered to his feet, stretching. He scratched his belly and then looked around. His sleepy eyes landed on an enormous stone near the back of the cave. All right, he muttered. "I'll fix it." With a great effort, the big bear rolled the massive stone toward the entrance. Mowgli watched as Baloo pushed it forward, using all his strength to block out the cold. The stone thudded into place, covering most of the opening. "There," Baloo said, satisfied. "That should keep out the wind." He yawned lightly, plopped back down, and curled into a ball. "Now, good night," he mumbled. Mowgli smiled at Baloo's kindness and lay down as well. But as the minutes passed, he felt something thin, sharp wisps of icy air sneaking through the small gaps around the stone. He gasped as another shiver racked his body. "I'm still shivery," he admitted. "The stone doesn't fit the hole. There's a gap, and the wind blows through it like a sharp knife." Baloo let out a deep, frustrated sigh. "You are a very tiresome boy," he grumbled, rolling over to face the wall. Kaa, who had been watching with quiet amusement, chuckled softly. "I'll fix it, Mowgli," he said. Mowgli perked up. "You will." The great python slithered forward, his smooth body gliding effortlessly across the stone floor. He coiled himself all around the edges of the stone, filling every tiny gap with his thick, muscular form. He wrapped himself tightly, creating a perfect seal, like a living, breathing curtain against the wind. There, Kaa hissed proudly. "Now the wind cannot pass through." Mowgli felt a rush of warmth almost immediately. The chill was gone, and the cave was now snug and cozy. He sighed in relief. "Thank you, Kaa," he chuckled, curling up comfortably on the dry cave floor. "Good," grunted Blue, already drifting back into sleep. "Now, perhaps I can get some rest at last." Mowgli smiled as he listened to Baloo's deep, rumbling snores. The cave was warm now, safe from the harsh winter outside. The stone blocked most of the wind, and his coils sealed off the rest. For the first time that night, Mowgli truly relaxed. He stretched his arms and legs, enjoying the warmth. He thought about how lucky he was to have such good friends King Louie, who tried to lift him above the cold, Baloo, who gave up his cave for him, and Kaa, who found a way to keep him warm. As he drifted off to sleep, he smiled to himself. The jungle in winter wasn't so bad after all, not when you had friends to help you through it. And with that thought, he closed his eyes, feeling warm and safe at last.